The fire alarm's wail still echoed in Jake's ears as he stood at the kitchen sink, scrubbing a plate under cold water. His hands moved with the steady rhythm of someone used to high-pressure situations, a reflex honed from years as an Austin firefighter. It was 8:47 p.m., and the Texas summer heat clung to the air, even inside. He'd just returned from a grueling shift, 12 hours pulling a family from a burning duplex. His shoulders ached, but the work kept him grounded. Routine was his anchor. The front door creaked open, and Sophia burst into the hallway, dragging 2 suitcases. Her steps were sharp, deliberate, like she'd rehearsed this moment. Jake glanced over, the sponge pausing mid-scrub. She didn't look at him, not right away. Instead, she set the bags down with a thud and squared her shoulders. "I need space," she said, her voice flat but firm, like a decision made weeks ago. "I'm leaving." Jake's grip tightened on the plate, but his face stayed calm. He turned off the faucet, dried his hands on a towel, and faced her. 5 years of marriage, countless late-night talks, shared dreams, quiet mornings over coffee, hung between them. He waited for more, for some explanation, but Sophia just stood there, her jaw set, eyes avoiding his. The silence stretched, heavy and unfamiliar. "You're sure?" he asked, his voice low, steady, like he was talking someone off a ledge. She nodded once, quick and final. "I just need time. For myself." He studied her for a moment, searching for a crack in her resolve, but found none. "No te has, no hesitation." Just a woman who'd already checked out. He gave a slight nod, not agreement, but acknowledgement. She took it as permission, grabbed her bags, and walked past him. The door clicked shut behind her, and the house swallowed the sound of her footsteps. Jake stood alone, the plate still in his hand, the kitchen clock ticking louder than it ever had. He didn't chase her, didn't call out. Instead, he turned the faucet back on and finished the dishes. One by one, he stacked them in the rack, each clink a small act of control in a world that had just tilted. The house felt too big now, the air too still. He moved to the living room, dropped onto the couch, and flipped on the TV. A sports highlight reel blared, but he didn't watch. The noise was just a shield against the quiet. An hour later, his phone buzzed. A text from Mia, his older sister. "You good? Heard you had a rough shift." He typed back, "Fine. Just tired." He didn't mention Sophia. Not yet. He wasn't ready to unpack that wound, even with Mia, who'd always been his confidant. Instead, he grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat back down, staring at the screen without seeing it. The next morning, Jake was up at 6 a.m., same as always. He laced up his running shoes and hit the trails near Lady Bird Lake, the Austin skyline glinting in the early light. His legs burned as he pushed harder, faster, as if he could outrun the ache in his chest. Back home, he showered, made coffee, and headed to the fire station. His crew greeted him with fist bumps and the usual ribbing. "Hero of the week, saving that family," his captain said, clapping his shoulder. Jake forced a smile, deflecting the praise. Work was his refuge. He checked equipment, ran drills, and mentored a rookie on ladder techniques. But in the downtime, his mind drifted. Sophia's words, "I need space," looped in his head. What did that even mean? They'd been solid, hadn't they? No big fights, no red flags. Or had he missed something? He shook it off, focusing on the task at hand. Compartmentalize. That's what he did in a fire. Stay calm, stay sharp. He could do it now. That evening, as he grilled burgers in the backyard, his neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, leaned over the fence. "Saw Sophia last night," she said, her tone casual but pointed. She was downtown, getting into some fancy car with a guy. Noticed it cause she was laughing louder than usual. Mrs. Alvarez raised an eyebrow, waiting for a reaction. Jake flipped a burger, his expression neutral. "Thanks for the heads up," he said, keeping his voice even. But inside, something tightened. A guy. A fancy car. Sophia hadn't wasted time. He didn't ask Mrs. Alvarez for details. She'd already said enough. The seed of doubt sprouted, sharp and persistent. Later, his best friend Carlos swung by, a six-pack in hand. They sat on the patio, the cicadas humming in the background. Carlos didn't beat around the bush. "You holding up, man?" "Mia called me," said Sophia bailed. Jake nodded, sipping his beer, and gave the short version. She left. No warning, no real reason. Carlos leaned forward, his voice dropping. "I saw her last week at the Driscoll bar. She was with some suit, all over him. Looked cozy, like it wasn't their first time." Jake's jaw clenched, but But he didn't flinch. "She's free to do what she wants," he said, though the words tasted bitter. Carlos shook his head. "You're too calm, bro. That's not normal." Jake just shrugged. "What's normal? She made her choice." But the pieces were falling into place. Sophia's late nights at work, her sudden distance, the way she dodged questions about her day. Jake wasn't one for drama, but he wasn't naive either. He pulled out his phone and texted a guy he knew from the station, a former cop turned private investigator. "Need a favor. Can you look into someone for me?" He sent Sophia's name and a brief rundown. No accusations, just facts. The next few days, Jake stuck to his routine. He ran calls at the station, helped rebuild the community center gutted by a fire, and even taught a CPR class at the local YMCA. Everyone saw the same Jake. Steady, reliable, the guy who'd run into a burning building without blinking. But at night, alone, he'd check his phone, waiting for the investigator's report. Something was coming, and he'd be ready when it did. Jake's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter as he chopped vegetables for dinner. It was 6:32 p.m., 4 days since he'd contacted Ray, the private investigator. The text read, "Got something? Meet me at the diner on Congress, 8 p.m." Jake set the knife down, his pulse quickening. He didn't reply, just nodded to himself and resumed chopping. Routine kept him steady, but the anticipation gnawed at him. Whatever Ray had found, it would change things. At the fire station earlier that day, Jake had thrown himself into work. A car accident call had him crawling through a wrecked SUV to stabilize a trapped driver. His hands moved with precision, securing the man's neck brace while his crew cut the car open. "You're going to be fine," Jake told the driver, his voice calm despite the chaos. The guy clung to his words, and Jake got him out alive. His captain gave him a nod afterward, but Jake's mind was elsewhere. Sophia's departure, Mrs. Alvarez's comment, Carlos's sighting. They looped in his head, pieces of a puzzle he hadn't asked to solve. Now, at the diner, Jake slid into a booth across from Ray. The place smelled of coffee and fried onions, the hum of conversation blending with a jukebox playing old country. Ray, a wiry guy with sharp eyes, pushed a manila folder across the table. "You're not going to like this," he said, cutting straight to it. Jake opened the folder. Bank statements, text logs, and grainy photos spilled out. Sophia had been withdrawing cash from their joint account, small amounts, frequent, adding up to thousands. Text to a number registered to Ethan Caldwell, a lawyer downtown, showed plans for dinners, weekend trips, even a lease on an apartment. One photo caught Sophia and Ethan outside a hotel, her hand on his arm, both laughing. Jake's stomach twisted, but his face stayed neutral. "How long?" he asked. "Months at least," Ray said. "The money trail starts 6 months back. She's been funneling funds to a separate account. Looks like she was planning a new life." Jake flipped through the texts. One from Sophia to Ethan read, "He's clueless. We're good." Another, "Can't wait to start over." He closed the folder, his jaw tight. "Anything else?" Ray leaned back. "She's been using your credit card for some of their outings. Restaurants, bars, even a jewelry store. I can dig deeper, but it'll cost more." Jake shook his head. "This is enough. Send me the bill." He left cash on the table and walked out, the folder tucked under his arm. The Austin night was warm, the city alive with music and lights, but Jake felt a cold clarity settling in. Sophia hadn't just left. She'd been betraying him, systematically, for half a year. Back home, he sat at the kitchen table, the folder open. He cross-checked the bank statements with their joint account online. The numbers matched Ray's findings. $12,000 drained over 6 months, disguised as miscellaneous withdrawals. He found charges for places he'd never been. Fancy restaurants, a spa, a boutique hotel. Each one stung, not for the money, but for the lie. He'd trusted her, built a life with her, and she'd been carving out an exit behind his back. The next morning, Jake called his sister, Mia. She picked up on the first ring. "You okay? You've been dodging me," she said, her voice sharp with worry. "I'm fine," Jake said, then paused. "Sophia's been cheating. For months. Took money from our account, too." Mia gasped. "What? How do you wait? Are you sure?" "Got proof," he said, keeping it short. "I'm handling it." "Jake, you can't just handle this alone. Talk to me. Are you okay?" He didn't answer that. Instead, he said, "I'll call you later," and hung up. Opening up wasn't his style, not now. He needed action, not words. He contacted a lawyer friend, Lisa, who specialized in family law. Over coffee at a quiet cafe, he laid out the evidence. Lisa skimmed the folder, her brow furrowing. This is financial fraud, Jake. You've got grounds to protect your assets and maybe press charges. But it's messy. What do you want to do? I want her out of my life, he said. No drama, no begging. Just done. Lisa nodded. We can freeze the joint account, start separating your finances. If you want to pursue the fraud, we can file a report. But it'll mean court, maybe publicity. Jake thought it over. Court wasn't his first choice. He hated the spotlight. But letting Sophia walk away with his money, his trust, his time, that wasn't an option either. Freeze the account, he said. I'll think about the rest. That night, Carlos came by, uninvited but welcome. They sat on the patio, beers in hand, the city's skyline glowing in the distance. Mia told me. Carlos said, Man, that's cold. What's your move? Jake leaned back, staring at the stars. I'm not chasing her. She made her choice. But she doesn't get to take everything with her. Carlos nodded, impressed. You're too chill, man. I'd be smashing stuff. Jake smirked. Smashing stuff doesn't fix it. I'm playing smarter. Over the next few days, Jake moved with purpose. He met with Lisa again, signing papers to lock down his accounts. He changed the locks on the house, something he hadn't thought to do when Sophia first left. He boxed up her remaining things, books, a few toiletries, a jacket she'd left in the closet, and stacked them in the garage. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of himself. At the fire station, he stayed focused, leading his team through a warehouse fire with the same calm he brought to every call. But in the quiet moments, the betrayal simmered. He didn't let it consume him. Instead, he channeled it. He volunteered extra hours at the community center, helping rebuild what the fire had destroyed. Kids from a neighborhood followed him around, asking questions, and he taught them how to use a fire extinguisher. Their laughter eased the weight in his chest, if only for a moment. Then, late one evening, his phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. It's Sophia. Can we talk? I miss you. Jake stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the reply button. He didn't respond. Not yet. He knew she'd come back eventually. People like her always did when their plans unraveled. And when she did, he'd be ready, not with anger, but with the truth. Jake was mid-shift at the Austin fire station, checking the hoses on engine 12, when his phone vibrated in his pocket. It was another text from Sophia. Please, Jake, just talk to me. I'm outside your house. He stared at the screen, his jaw tightening. She'd been texting for 2 days, each message more desperate, but he hadn't responded. Not yet. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and focused on the hose, his hands steady despite the storm in his head. The station's bustle, radios crackling, boots stomping, kept him grounded. It was 3:15 p.m. When he got home, his truck pulling into the driveway under the Texas sun. Sure enough, Sophia's car was parked across the street. She stepped out as he approached the door, her posture stiff, arms crossed like she was bracing for a fight. Jake paused, keys in hand, and faced her. What do you want? He asked, his voice flat, betraying nothing. Can we talk? She said, her tone softer than he remembered, almost pleading. Inside, he considered sending her away, but nodded instead. This needed to end. He unlocked the door, let her in, and leaned against the kitchen counter, arms folded. Sophia stood in the living room, shifting her weight like the space no longer fit her. She launched into her speech, words tumbling out fast. I messed up, Jake. These weeks without you. I realize how much I need you. The life we had, cooking together, planning our future, it's all I want. I was confused, but I'm clear now. I want us back. Jake listened, his face unreadable. Her words sounded rehearsed, like lines from a script she hoped would work. She stepped closer, reaching for his hand, but he pulled back. You done? He asked. She froze, caught off guard. Jake, I'm serious. I miss you. I want to fix this, start over. We could even, I don't know, plan for a family like we talked about. He let out a short, humorless laugh. A family. He reached into a drawer, pulled out the manila folder Ray had given him, and slid it across the counter. Open it. Sophia hesitated, then flipped it open. Her eyes scanned the bank statements, the text logs, the photo of her and Ethan outside the hotel. Her face drained of color. Where did you get this? She whispered. Doesn't matter, Jake said. You've been lying for months. Draining our account, planning a new life with Ethan Caldwell. You didn't just need space. You were already gone. She shook her head, frantic. It's not what it looks like. Ethan was a mistake. A friend. I was lost, Jake. I didn't mean to hurt you. You took 12 grand, he said, his voice steady but cutting. You booked hotels, dinners, jewelry on my card. You texted him I was clueless. That sound like a friend to you? Sophia's mouth opened, then closed. She clutched the folder, her hands trembling. I can explain. I was going to pay it back. I got caught up. Please, Jake, give me a chance. He stepped forward, his eyes locked on hers. I gave you 5 years. I gave you trust. You don't get to come back now because your plan fell apart. He pulled a key from his pocket and set on the counter. Your stuff's in the garage. Take it and go. She stared at the key, then at him, her voice breaking. You're throwing me out? After everything we had? This house, our life. This house is mine, he cut in. Always was. You never signed a lease, never put a dime into it. You made your choice when you walked out. Now live with it. Sophia's eyes welled up, but Jake didn't waver. He'd spent weeks piecing together her betrayal, and her tears wouldn't undo it. You've got 10 minutes, he said, glancing at his watch. I've got a shift soon. She tried one last time, her voice a mix of desperation and defiance. You're really this cold? You don't even miss me? Not at all. Jake met her gaze, unflinching. I know about the bar, Sophia. You and Ethan, laughing, touching like I never existed. You didn't miss me then. I'm just returning the favor. Her breath caught, and for a moment, she looked like she'd argue. But the weight of his words, the truth of them, silenced her. She grabbed the key, stormed to the garage, and started loading her boxes into her car. Jake stood by the door, watching as she struggled with a heavy one, tears streaming down her face. He didn't help, not out of cruelty, but because some bridges, once burned, stayed ash. As her car pulled away, Jake felt a strange mix of relief and ache. He'd loved her once, deeply, but that love had been chipped away by her lies. He locked the door, grabbed his gear, and headed back to the station. The crew was prepping for a training drill when he arrived, and he dove in, calling out orders, checking equipment. Work was his constant, his way to keep moving forward. Later that night, Mia called. Carlos told me Sophia showed up. You okay? She asked, her voice thick with concern. I'm good, Jake said, and for the first time he meant it. She's gone. For real this time. Mia sighed. You sure you don't want to talk? You're scaring me with this calm thing. He chuckled softly. I'm not calm. I'm just clear. I'll be fine, Mia. After hanging up, Jake sat on his patio, a beer in hand, the city's hum in the distance. He'd frozen the joint account, thanks to Lisa's quick work, and was already untangling his finances from Sophia's mess. But the real work was internal, rebuilding trust, not in her, but in himself. He'd missed the signs, ignored the distance, but he wouldn't again. The folder still sat on the counter, a reminder of what he'd uncovered. Tomorrow, he'd meet Lisa to discuss next steps, maybe a fraud report, maybe not. For now, he'd done what he needed to, cut the cord clean. Jake's boots crunched on the gravel as he carried a stack of lumber to the community center, the Austin sun beating down on his neck. It was a Saturday, 3 weeks since Sophia's final exit, and he was helping rebuild the center's rec room, gutted by a fire months earlier. Kids darted around, their laughter mixing with the hum of drills and saws. Jake handed a plank to a volunteer, his movements precise, focused. Work like this, tangible, purposeful, kept the lingering sting of betrayal at bay. He'd thrown himself into new routines since Sophia left. Morning started with runs along Lady Bird Lake, his pace punishing but steady. At the fire station, he took on extra shifts, training rookies and running drills with a focus that earned nods from his captain. Nights were quieter, cooking simple meals, catching up on emails, or mentoring kids at the YMCA's after-school program. He taught them how to tie knots, a skill from his firefighting days, and their wide-eyed focus gave him a sense of purpose he hadn't realized he needed. His phone buzzed mid-afternoon as he wiped sweat from his brow. It was Lisa, his lawyer. Accounts fully separated, she said. Your assets are secure. But there's more. Sophia tried accessing the joint account yesterday. Bank flagged it, denied her. She's been calling their fraud department, claiming it's a mistake. Jake set down a hammer, his jaw tightening. She's got nerve, he said. What's next? Your call, Lisa replied. We've got enough for a fraud report, those withdrawals, the credit card charges. It's solid, but it'll mean statements, maybe court. You ready for that? Jake paused, glancing at the kids, painting a mural nearby. File it, he said. She doesn't get to walk away clean. Done, Lisa said. I'll keep you posted. He hung up, the decision settling like a weight lifted. Sophia's actions had consequences, and he wasn't about to let her skate by. He grabbed another plank, diving back into the rebuild. A kid, maybe 10, tugged at his sleeve. Jake, can you show me how to hold a drill? He knelt, guiding the boy's hands, and for a moment, the world felt right. That evening, Carlos swung by the house, a pizza box in hand. They sat on the patio, the city's skyline glowing against the dusk. Heard you're a big shot at the community center now, Carlos teased, cracking open a soda. Kids calling you Coach Jake yet? Jake smirked. They're good kids. Keeps me busy. Carlos leaned forward, his tone shifting. Mia's worried you're bottling stuff up. Said you're too calm, like you're hiding something. Jake took a bite of pizza, chewing thoughtfully. I'm not hiding, he said. Just moving on. Sophia's gone. I'm not wasting energy on her. Carlos nodded, but his eyes lingered, searching for cracks. Fair enough. But I got news. Saw Sophia downtown last night, alone at some cafe. Looked rough, man. Words getting around about her and that Ethan guy. People know she screwed you over. Jake shrugged, but the news landed harder than he expected. Not because he cared about Sophia's struggles, but because the ripple effects of her choices were spreading. He'd heard whispers at the station, guys asking if he was okay, neighbors dropping hints about Sophia's new life falling apart. Ethan, the lawyer, had apparently cut ties, leaving her to face the fallout alone. Jake didn't gloat, but he didn't pity her either. Actions had consequences. The next day, he met Mia for coffee at a spot near Zilker Park. She hugged him tight, her eyes scanning him for signs of distress. You're really okay? She asked, stirring her latte. I mean, after everything, her leaving, the money, the affair. I'm good, Jake said, sipping his black coffee. Not saying it doesn't hurt, but I'm not letting it define me. Mia frowned, unconvinced. You're too stubborn to admit when you're not fine. But I get it. You're doing you. Just don't shut us out, okay? He nodded, softening. Deal. But you gotta stop worrying. I'm building something new. That something new took shape over the next week. Jake donated half of what was left in the joint account, money Sophia hadn't touched, to a local charity for betrayed spouses, a cause that hit close to home. He didn't publicize it, but the act felt like closing a chapter. At the community center, he started a weekly workshop, teaching kids basic first aid and fire safety. Parents thanked him, and one even slipped him a homemade tamale, saying, You're giving these kids a role model. Jake brushed it off, but the words stuck. One night, as he sorted through old files, he found a bank statement he'd missed. It showed a charge from a jewelry store, dated 2 months before Sophia left. He cross-checked it with Ray's report. A $2,000 necklace, paid with his card, never seen on Sophia. A gift for Ethan, no doubt. The discovery didn't break him. It just confirmed what he already knew. He tossed the statement into a shredder, the hum of the machine a small victory. By the end of the week, Lisa called with an update. Fraud reports filed. Police are looking into Sophia's withdrawals. They might need a statement from you soon. Also, Ethan's firm caught wind of his involvement. He's on thin ice at work. Jake leaned back in his chair, processing. Thanks, Lisa. Keep me posted. He hung up, staring out at the Austin skyline from his patio. The city pulsed with life, music, traffic, possibility. Sophia's world was crumbling, but Jake's was expanding. He wasn't reveling in her downfall. He was too busy rebuilding his own life. The kids at the center, the crew at the station, the quiet nights where he could breathe without tension. They were his foundation now. Sophia had tried to take that from him, but she'd failed. He was still standing, stronger than before. Jake crouched beside a group of kids at the Austin Community Center, showing them how to use a fire extinguisher. Aim low, squeeze steady, he said, guiding a girl's hands as she practiced on a mock fire. Her grin was wide, infectious, and for a moment, Jake forgot the weight of the past few months. It was a crisp fall afternoon, 6 months since Sophia's departure, and he was carving out a new rhythm, one that didn't revolve around her. His days were full. Morning started with runs through Zilker Park, the Austin skyline, a quiet backdrop to his steady breaths. At the fire station, he'd been promoted to lead trainer, a role that had him mentoring rookies and running citywide drills. His nights were split between volunteering at the YMCA and catching up with old friends, people he'd drifted from during his marriage. He'd even taken a weekend trip to Big Bend, hiking trails he'd ignored for years. The open sky and rugged paths felt like a reset, a way to reclaim pieces of himself Sophia had tried to erase. His phone buzzed as he packed up at the center. It was Lisa, his lawyer. Police wrapped their investigation, she said. Sophia's facing charges for financial fraud. They've got your statements, the bank records, everything. She's looking at restitution and maybe probation. Court dates next month. Jake nodded, though Lisa couldn't see it. Thanks. Anything I need to do? Not yet. If they need you to testify, I'll let you know. You good? Yeah, he said, and he meant it. The news didn't spark anger or satisfaction, just closure. Sophia's consequences were her own. He'd done his part by reporting the truth. Hanging up, he drove home, the city's lights flickering to life. At the house, he grilled a steak and ate on the patio, the hum of Austin's nightlife in the distance. The place felt like his again. No trace of Sophia's belongings, no echo of her lies. He'd sold the old couch they'd shared and bought a new one, a small act of reclaiming his space. The garage, once packed with her boxes, now held his hiking gear and tools for the community center. Carlos showed up unannounced, a habit he hadn't broken. He carried a six-pack and a piece of news he clearly couldn't wait to share. Man, you're not going to believe this, he said, cracking open a beer. Sophia's in deep. Ethan bailed on her completely. Moved to Dallas, cut contact. Word is she's working some low-end job now, barely scraping by. And get this, she's pregnant. Ethan's the dad, but he's only paying child support, nothing else. She's on her own. Jake set his beer down, his expression steady. The news hit, but not like it would have months ago. She made her choices, he said. That's her life now. Carlos leaned forward, eyebrows raised. You're really over it, huh? Most guys would be gloating. Jake shook his head. No point. She's paying for what she did. I'm just living my life. Carlos hesitated, then pressed. You sure you're okay? I mean, you loved her, man. 6 years. That doesn't just vanish. Jake looked out at the skyline, the city's pulse steady against the night. It doesn't vanish, he admitted. But it changes. I loved who I thought she was. Turns out, that wasn't real. I'm not wasting energy on someone who checked out long before I knew it. Carlos nodded, respect in his eyes. You're a better man than me, Jake. Nah, Jake said with a half smile. Just stubborn. The next week, Mia invited him to dinner at her place. Over tacos, she grilled him gently, her worry softer now. You seem lighter, she said, passing him a plate. Like you're actually okay. I am, Jake said. Took time, but I'm building something better. No regrets. She smiled, squeezing his hand. Proud of you, little brother. Back at the station, Jake's crew noticed the change too. He was sharper, more present, cracking jokes during downtime, something he hadn't done in months. During a call to a kitchen fire, he led his team with precision, pulling a trapped teenager to safety. The kid's mom hugged him after, tears in her eyes, and Jake just nodded, deflecting the praise. But it felt good, real, unlike the hollow promises Sophia had fed him. One evening, as he sorted through old paperwork, he found a photo tucked in a drawer. Him and Sophia at a barbecue, laughing, her arm around his waist. He stared at it, waiting for the ache to hit. It didn't. The man in that photo felt like a stranger, someone who hadn't yet learned what Jake knew now. Love wasn't enough if it wasn't mutual. He tossed the photo in the trash. No ceremony, no second thoughts. By the time the court date rolled around, Jake didn't attend. Lisa handled it, texting him the outcome. Sophia was ordered to pay restitution for the $12,000 she'd taken, plus court fees. Probation for a year. No jail time, but her reputation in their circles was shot. Jake didn't care about the gossip. He'd stopped listening to it. His focus was forward, a new training program at the station, a camping trip with Carlos, a workshop for the kids. His life was his own again, built on choices he could stand by. Sitting on his patio one night, stars bright above, Jake sipped a coffee and scrolled through his phone. A message from the community center director popped up. Kids loved your first aid class. Can you do another? He typed back, count me in. As he set the phone down, a quiet peace settled over him. Sophia's betrayal had cracked his world, but he'd rebuilt it stronger, brick by brick, choice by choice. He didn't need her to lose for him to win. He already had.